There's a model in the public leaderboards right now that scores within striking distance of the best in the world. That part has been reported. Here is the part that has not. You can download it, run it on hardware you own, and never send a single token to anybody. I have been doing exactly that for months. I am Garon Green, and this is the Flash Brief. The subject is DeepSeek 4 Flash High. Most of the coverage leads with the price because the price is startling. I want to lead somewhere else. The license is MIT, and the weights are published, which means that unlike almost everything else near the top of that leaderboard, this is not a service you rent. It is a thing you can possess. An MIT license is a stronger grant than the open weights label carried by several of its neighbors on that board. It permits commercial use, modification, and redistribution with no bespoke agreement to read first. Practically, that means four things. There is no API between you and the model. There is no vendor who can change the terms underneath you. There is no per token bill because nothing is being metered, and nothing you feed it leaves the building. So what is the thing you would be holding? V4 Flash is a sparse mixture of experts, 280 billion parameters in total, of which roughly 13 billion, about 1/20th, are awake on any given token. The context window runs to a million tokens. Rented through the API, it is 14 cents per million input tokens, and 28 cents per million input tokens, and 28 cents per million output, blending to about 25 cents per million. But hold on to that architecture because it decides whether you can run it yourself. Compute is set by the 13 billion active, memory is set by the 280 billion total. So can you hold it? 280 billion parameters is on the order of 280 gigabytes of weights at 8-bit and roughly 140 gigabytes at 4-bit. That is arithmetic from the parameter count alone, excluding the KB cache. The brief's own verdict is that this is a multi-accelerator deployment, not a laptop, and that is the correct conservative reading. It is also at 4-bit, right on the line a large unified memory workstation can now cross. I know because that is where mine runs. Now I want to change register and to be explicit about it. Everything so far is sourced. A published price card, a published parameter count, a public leaderboard. What follows is not measurement, it is testimony. I have been running this model locally on my own hardware for months. Take the next two slides as one operator's experience, clearly labeled, and weigh it accordingly. My assessment, plainly, is that it is purely impressive. I do not mean impressive for an open model, or impressive for the price, or impressive as a novelty you demonstrate once and then close. I mean, it has been a genuinely strong working tool on my own hardware, offline, across months of daily use. The category it usually gets filed under, the cheap open alternative you settle for, does not describe using it at all. But I would be doing you no favors if I stopped there. The real downside is speed. It can be slow, and the place I feel it most is code review. Sitting there waiting while it works through a diff, I could have skimmed myself in the time it takes. That is not a small complaint, and I am not going to soften it. If your work is latency sensitive, this will bother you, and it will bother you every day. Quality was never my problem with this model. Waiting was. And here is the turn I did not see coming, and it is very easy to get backwards. The checkpoint I have been running for months is the preview. On the Arena board, that row is labeled DeepSeek V4 Flash High Preview, and it scores 1,4302. The checkpoint that shipped on the 31st of July scores 1577. Same architecture, same price card, a jump of 145 points and 44 places in rank. Both rows sit on that board at the same time. So the version I have been calling purely impressive for months is the lower line, and what just shipped is 145 points better at identical size and identical cost. So what actually changed? Less than you would guess. The architecture did not change. Same 280 billion total, same 13 billion active. The price did not change. Same 14 cents in, 28 cents out. Anyone summarizing this as a bigger model or as a price cut has the story backwards. What DeepSeek describes is a repost training of the same base plus native support for the OpenAI Responses API and codex compatibility. The two things that normally explain a jump like this, more parameters or more money, are both held fixed. Which brings us to the caveat stamped on that board. The source is Arena.ai's front-end code Arena, overall snapshotted on the 1st of August. 108 models, just over 500,000 votes, blind human pairwise voting on live rendered output, and Arena marks our row preliminary. It rests on 1,319 votes, about a quarter of 1% of the board, with the stated uncertainty of plus or minus 18. The rating is a conservative true skill figure, mu minus 3 sigma, which holds a low vote row below its central estimate, so 1577 may be a floor, but a thin sample is a noisy one, and this number may move in either direction. With that caveat carried forward, here is where it lands. Claude Opus 5 Max is number 1 at 1705. Our row is 1577, 7th of 108. That gap is 128 points, about 7.5%, at roughly 1/82nd of the blended price. The nearer comparison is stranger still. GLM 5.2 Max scores 1586, 9 points above, at about 15 times the price. 9 points sits well inside that plus or minus 18, so I will not call it a ranking. One more piece of honesty, and it is the brief's own caveat rather than a critic's. Everything I have quoted prices tokens, and nobody buys tokens. They buy finished tasks. High reasoning effort is the same checkpoint generating a longer reasoning trace before it answers, and those traces are output tokens priced at twice input. So the effective cost per completed task exceeds the sticker rate by an amount nobody can quantify because no public board reports tokens per task. That compresses the gap. It does not reverse it. And on my own machine, the meter is not running at all. So let me put the pieces back where I started. A model that sits 7th on a public leaderboard within 7.5% of the best in the world on a rating that is preliminary and may well move. And you could download it, hold it, and run it with nothing leaving your desk. I have been running the weaker checkpoint for months and calling it purely impressive. The one that shipped is 145 points better at the same size and the same price. It is slow sometimes, that is the tax. But you are not renting the thing that is slow. You own it. The full brief, with the frontier chart, the cost derivation, and every figure carrying its board and its date, is at dsflash.nabicov.us.com. It is independent analysis, not affiliated with DeepSeek or with Arena. I am Garon Green. Thanks for watching.